What is good? Hello, people. It is Monday, and we are Dadcast.
With the man, them.
Okay, yes.
Duppy, you always go slow. Like, just go for it, bro.
Okay, I go for it.
So there are some people who will be watching us on Facebook. There'll be some people who are tuned in, listening on podcasts. Some people are listening live on BCFM. Kinney, we will have an extra voice with a very distinctive accent. Who is our guest today?
So our guest today is our boy. He is a friend of Dadcast with the man, them. All the way from America, Philadelphia, none other than Fame Black.
Howdy incarnations to y'all. It's Fame Black from America.
How have things been, Fame? Because, last time there was loads of storms, you couldn't come on, and we saw you sent pictures of, like, just trees just in the road.
Yeah, a tree fell in my... It's like 2020 has got to be the craziest year for everything. But in the middle of everything that's been going on, there's been like crazy rain, crazy wind, and literally it broke the old tree in our down our block and knocked out not the power, but it knocked on the internet.
Oh wow!
So we couldn't. Yeah,
it's like being back in the 90s.
Started last week, so it was really bad.
Well, at least it wasn't. At least there wasn't any rain. You said it was just wind, but it could have been 10 times worse.
So Skins, I know. Go on, Fame.
The previous week was full of like rain weather and like hurricane and tornado warnings, which is crazy because we don't get tornadoes in Philadelphia. But I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, it was really insane weather, and like it affected more than just that tree. Like a lot of people's power went out for the week. It was a wild time.
Wow. And within all of that, you're being a father, and how scary is that then? Because it's no longer just you looking after yourself. You've got other human beings that you have to worry about whilst all that's kicking off. Right.
So I'm in the unique position of like, I'm already a father during all, like, first let's narrow it down, right? Let's talk about the COVID-19. Let's talk about the coronavirus. Like that, my daughter's in school in middle school. So it was an easy shift to online classes and stuff. But the kicker is I'm having a new baby, waiting on that baby any day.
Okay.
And man, so let's talk about the procedure. They made us quarantine, me and the mother. They asked us to quarantine 2 weeks before the due date. Otherwise, she would have to give birth wearing a mask, and I would need to wear a mask as well. My first delivery with my other daughter 12 years ago. That's you were allowed to like leave and get a snack or maybe grab a Coke or whatever. During the labor, in these instances, you cannot leave. If you leave the room, you are banned from the room. That is it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
You can't go out. You can't go out for a smoke or anything because that's done. Yeah, and you can't come back in the hospital.
Can you imagine for the woman having to wear a mask during that time? Like what?
Right, and that's why we took the quarantine option, is because that was the only way they say you don't have to wear a mask if you've been quarantining in the house for 2 weeks prior to coming in, and they still test you for COVID coming in.
So what has it been like then? For you, you and the mother of your newborn, because it's obviously we're in a unique situation with the COVID thing. So what's it been like? The pregnancy during this situation.
Basically the same as any pregnancy. For the most part, she worked. She chose to work. For a lot of it, she was very fearless about it. She was like, I don't want to be at home. I'm going to go crazy. My job is still letting me work, so let me work. And they took precautions at the job. There was social distancing in place. There was masks. There's temperature taken and all that stuff that we're trying to, convince ourselves is good control. But she basically, all up until the quarantine, has been very smooth sailing, basically same type of pregnancy, except for the fact that she's able to do virtual visits. The main difference between this pregnancy and why I chose to do this during this time is we're not going to have the baby at a hospital. We're going to a birthing center. Do y'all have those?
No, I was going to ask. What's
we do have a birthing center.
Wow.
Yeah, of course. That's where Keto was born.
Okay.
Oh, the more you know, isn't it? Okay.
Well, you had a child 2 years after I had my smallest, so I guess times changed.
Yeah, so these places are like, obviously they're strictly for women delivering babies. That's basically there's nothing else going on there. We chose to go there because the hospitals are congregating with sick people. You know, it seems like a more healthy environment when you know that the only people going in and out of these buildings are expectant mothers who are, as you would assume, taking every precaution to avoid the coronavirus, as we are. So that's why that was the biggest move. That's the biggest difference. I never even thought to go to a birthing center. It's very traditional. I don't know what's it like over there. I mean, you guys didn't even know there was a birthing center. It's very traditional to be like, oh, let's go to the hospital to have our baby. That's what everybody does. But yeah, in this case, I was like, if there's something else we could do, because I was more concerned that this was going to be running rampant and the hospitals were going to be like flooded.
Yeah.
Like there would be no room or space for her.
That's crazy.
With the situation then with it, like in the UK, it tends to be that we've got our NHS, and when you're having a baby, you know, you pick the hospital you go, and there's no worry about any kind of financial comeuppance. When it comes to arranging the birthing center, how does that work for you guys in the States?
Luckily, this birthing center was covered by our insurance. Her and I work at the same job, just different stores. It was covered by her insurance, and if it wasn't, like, I would have had to cover it with my insurance because mine is a little better. But yeah, it's not as expensive as going to the hospital.
Okay.
It's so much cheaper. Yeah, the American medical care system is a joke, but it can range. The price can range for having a baby. All the same stuff can range from hospital to hospital. In this case, they give you a very formatted list of what costs what, and it's very reasonable. But even if it's and it's very easy to cover by insurance. The only thing that's not covered by insurance is a doula.
Okay. So does that mean that when you are looking for a job, you have to think ahead to things like this and take into account what medical is covered? Because I'm assuming different jobs have different kinds of medical insurance. Is that right? So different things might be covered?
Yeah, exactly. So if you're like looking for a certain type of insurance that, let's say you need like an emotional support animal. I have a good job, so my insurance covers me to have an emotional support animal. A lot of jobs won't. So if you need one of them, you might need or you might need to look for a job that has that kind of insurance that will allow you to get that for free.
That's crazy. So you could find your dream job and find out that certain things that you need to fit within your lifestyle or your
they have like extra insurance where it's like an $800 million deductible, and yeah, you end up like paying out of pocket for all your medical expenses. Yeah, that could very much happen. It's we're very much out of it. Trying to change that, but
I have to ask. Earlier, you said that the prices at the birthing center were reasonable. Now, we are 4 different men, different jobs. So, what is reasonable in your eyes?
That's a good question. I would call it reasonable, meaning in comparison to the hospital, who at minimum will probably charge you about $80,000 just to deliver your baby. That's not going to count the 2 days.
How much was that? How much was that?
80 or 90 grand. I'm lowballing, fella. I'm shooting real low.
That's house money. You can
and like I said, it's not a matter of that's just the delivery, and that's like if you get an epidural, and then it's like once again they take care of you for an additional 2 days, so that's all medical bill.
Jeez.
So when I say reasonable, I mean like, oh, this birthing center I could pay for with cash if I needed.
Okay.
Reasonable.
But so
I don't charge this on credit card.
So it's imperative that you have insurance that covers that. If you're planning a baby, you have to have insurance basically, otherwise you're potentially going bankrupt.
Yeah, it's either that or you'll end up going to the welfare to have your baby for free.
Right. Okay. Wow.
So with that being said, then, Fame, like, obviously, you've got Lucy and your firstborn, and obviously you go to work and stuff like that. Do jobs cover like childcare and stuff?
No. So now, like in the midst of the COVID, a lot of companies are getting are basically getting inconvenienced because people need childcare. My job, for the longest time, allowed unlimited call outs, but that's not very practical if you want a paycheck. So yeah, I could call out and I won't get penalized. I'll still have my job. But it's like, yeah, I could call out every day that my daughter's in school, but when am I going to pick up any money? So they don't offer childcare options. What they will do now, because of the COVID situation, is they opened up like a fund. We've always had this fund, but it used to be like life or death. Like you had to be dying of like some disease and had to be so far behind on your medical bills that almost all of everybody's donations don't even make a dent. And it was kind of a messed up system. But because of the COVID today, they're like, hey, if you're falling behind, we put Jeff Bezos put $1 million in there, or $1 billion or whatever. And now you can, like, if you've been late to work or you need childcare coverage, you can get a one-time grant for like $10,000.
Okay. Is that something you have to pay back then, or is that kind of covered?
No, you don't have to pay it back. But it's only you can only do it one time per year.
Right. Okay. So it's crazy because it's something that we just don't. I feel really.
I'm coming over there. If I have another baby.
But it's just something that I've never in my life have I had to consider it, and it's so I know about the American healthcare system in the fact that I've looked into it, I've watched documentaries, and I'm interested in a lot of things around the world. But it's crazy. It's mad talking to another father who has to genuinely take in these considerations that have never ever had to enter my mind when it comes to delivery or your child being sick or anything like that. So it's interesting.
I found some figures for the UK and how much it does cost the NHS for some of these. So it does say, so cited by Guy's in St Thomas, it says that delivery and a single night stay, you'd be looking at around £4,000. It also says midwives can cost you anything between £3,000 and £5,000 for a midwife. Ultrasound will cost you £300 a pop. Epidural is saying about it costs £1,395 for an epidural on average.
So the crazy thing is the prices in the UK are actually a lot cheaper anyway, even if it's that private then, Jace.
It's just saying
what it would cost the NHS.
It's just an article that was written for Heart Radio. Probably shouldn't mention them on BCFM. BCFM community radio all day. BCFM 93.2 online DAB. But yeah, no, I was just looking down. They were just saying, London would tend to cost more because that's just how London works. Mm. But we'd be looking at 10 grand, which still is nothing compared to.
Yeah, and obviously that's completely covered in the fact that we pay national insurance and everything like that, which just. Yeah, it's crazy to think that that's not the case for people over in the States, man.
I think a lot of people would have a lot less babies if they knew the cost. I mean, Jess and Jade, as they grow up, I think they'd appreciate that it was free, because otherwise they might not be here.
Oh man. Fane, one thing that we did kind of want to discuss is that obviously the world's been turned upside down with the killing of George Floyd in America, and it's kind of sparked massive Black Lives Matter protests and stuff, and just bringing things more out to light that's already been there for for years and years and years. You're obviously you're in America, you're in Philly. What is the kind of the situation being like in Philly in relation to the killing of George Floyd?
I mean, I don't know what Philadelphia's reputation is necessarily, especially outside of the United States, but we're a Riley bunch. It's like, I don't know what the media covers, but we have not stopped protesting since the beginning. Every day has been a protest here. Just last Sunday, we had 100,000 people on our parkway, on the Benjamin Franklin Parkway. And it's been a very powerful movement. This is a Black Lives Matter city. We've had Black mayors, we've had Black governors. That's more a state thing. But it's like Philadelphia is basically a very Black city. It's the brotherly love. Like it's been known as such. And I've always been a disproponent to the cops, and I've always had to tell my not only my daughter, but I've always had to tell like younger cousins, friends, just young kids that I know of color, hey, this game is not set up for you. You're gonna have to do X, Y, and Z. You're gonna have to act like X, Y, and Z. Especially because I would give that advice to younger kids because I grew up in a suburb area because I come from a little bit of wealth, and so I was in a suburb area. So when I would see black kids, it would be more rare. So when I saw like younger black kids, I'm like, hey, you can't. I know that these other kids are throwing rocks, in the pond, but you don't want to be here to do that because the consequences are worse for you. When the cops come by and these kids are throwing rocks rocks over the creek, over the bridge, when cars are driving or whatever. When these little kids are doing it, you're the black kid, you want to join in, but you can't because when the cops come, they'll let everybody off with a warning and they'll cuff you. So
and even with that advice, because obviously that's such important advice, and I can't imagine as a father having to speak to my children in that manner. Now in England we do have racism, both overt and systemic, and 3 of my children are mixed heritage, so they've started to notice the way that they're treated differently and stuff. But it's not the same. It's not a life or death in general situation in the UK. I can't imagine having to have that conversation, but also to know that your younger cousin or this young person in the community you're speaking to could still be completely compliant and could still be murdered by the police. Like, it's chilling. It's really hard to even comprehend that is the way that it is for people, black people in America.
And I would tell anybody, like, if you don't get it, try to explain it to a child, because children don't necessarily understand hate. They don't understand, like, but why? And I'm like, I really don't know. I can't tell you. I'm just telling you, little child, this is how it is, and you got to watch out. And it's double because not only is it about being black, but it's also about being a woman, and because I have daughters, and so I have to have that conversation as well, and especially now. With the Time's Up and the Me Too and all that stuff, it's like, listen, I had to have that conversation. So it's just wild that I do find it very wild that my daughter is 10, 11, 12, and every year of her life, I'm like, hey, listen, this is about women. This is about black people. This is about a worldwide virus, and then like next year, our president's an idiot. Like I got, whatever it is that we got to, every year I got to have a new conversation with her. It's very traumatizing. You worry about the effect that it's going to have on these children.
And that's the thing. It's like I've got teenage daughters. 3 of my girls have hit puberty and pretty much all teenagers, and then my son's younger. And I've had a lot of conversation with my daughters around consent and around prejudice and overt prejudice and all sorts of kind of conversations. But it is so difficult to try to, like, that you've got to have those conversations, and now things are happening within the world that are making people more vocal. And I suppose not that it's good that anything good that can come from this is that more parents have more conversations that need to happen, but that doesn't mean it's worth what's happened. Being a youth worker, I've always been quite open with having those kind of conversations with my kids, and they've not always been easy conversations, especially with my daughters, around consent and understanding that statistically sexual assault is a very likely thing that's going to happen. That's heartbreaking as a father to even think about, but I have to overcome my own concerns and have that conversation. So I think the Me Too movement made it very vocal, so my daughters were coming to me as well, which I think is good for parents who maybe struggle more to open up that conversation. It's not an easy conversation to have.
No, not at all. And even worse, it's like, depending on the age, like my daughter's 12. She's into emo music and she does not want to care. She wants to be a kid. And unfortunately, I have to take that away from her and be like, no, this is very serious. The cops will treat you like trash. You need to, and it's like, at the end of the day, there's nothing I can tell her that makes it okay.
No.
At the end of the day, that I have to be like, yeah, well, listen, you could do everything right and be respectful and not have been breaking you could have been sleeping in your bed and the police can still come and murder you with no consequences. And it's hard to say that. And then she has to look at me and be like, well, Dad, are you accepting that? And I'm like, no, but can I go riot and loot in the street? No, because I have you.
Yeah. And that's what's been really hard. So there's been protests over it, and recently there was like one in Bristol that kind of made global news for what some of the protesters done, and there were conversations being had with like all 3 of us. So you had Joe, who attended with his kids, but stayed on the perimeter of everything that was going on, just so they weren't in the mix. There was Kinny, who I was very much in the same boat as Kinny of, I'm not going to go as much as I want to be there, I'm not going to go. In the end, I decided to go without my kids and stuff. And so it's just kind of for our kids to kind of see that there are different ways that you can stand up for these things. And I think as much as, there's a part of all of us that when these things happen, we want to kick off. And I don't know if that's kind of like a bit of our teenage side at the same time and just this angry side that comes out. But again, as fathers, we have to make decisions and we have to show them the ways that we choose to deal with these things and kind of ways to move forward. But I can't imagine how it feels, Fame. Like, it's bad enough when I'm driving in front. I've been pulled over by the police so many times. It's bad enough when I get pulled over. I'm comfortable because I know that I'm completely legit and legal. They've got nothing on me. I work in a school. My record is clean. But I still have that angst of, they're going to pull me over. This is annoying. Whereas I can't imagine what it's like for anybody across the pond who, like, oh my God, if these lights go off, like, this could be my last day. Like, I need to get my camera on my phone so that I have some sort of evidence of the things that I have done and have not done.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, I feel no security in, like, if I'm driving and I see the flashing lights and they turn around, there's no security in the fact that my record is clean. I'm like, it's still, oh snap, this could go terribly wrong. And it's just like, now you have this overt behavior of like, oh, before the cop arrives at your window, officer, I was driving at 55 miles. You have to have your hands up. It's embarrassing at how you have to now basically perform, and it's still not enough. So yeah, there's no security in that. There's no like, oh, this is a hassle over like, oh, you're kind of like a racist jerk. There's not just that. It could get violent. I mean, and it doesn't matter if you're a celebrity. Look at Jay Farrell from SNL. They put a knee in his neck as well. Just last week.
Yeah, and how is it for you then? So are you expecting a girl, or have you just had another girl? Okay.
No,
so
it's coming.
So there's going to be a 12-year gap between them. Like, are there things that you worry about happening between these times and the things that she's going to have to learn whilst, by the time she reaches 10, your other daughter's going to be 22. Do you hope that at least then she'll have some of the knowledge to share her wisdom as a young woman that kind of went through things, because she's going to experience things you cannot and have not experienced as a man.
Absolutely. I mean, the future is coming. So I told my daughter this too. That's another conversation I had to sit down and have. But expecting you to come in and be the big sister. Like, I'm, not only am I out of touch age-wise, but I'm also, I'm a man. So it's very different. Y'all as sisters, I'm gonna need you to look. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna do my part as a father, but I'm gonna need you to go in and look out for the way. And it was very easy to say. I was like, the way you would like somebody to have looked out for you, when you were going through whatever struggles with us as parents. So she's very excited and willing to do that, and I'm very happy about that. I'm not so much concerned this time around because I've had those difficult conversations with my daughter at these young ages, so I know that I can do that. And if I have to do it younger, because of the circumstances, then I guess I'll have to do it younger. But you never get used to that feeling. Like I said, it sucks to be, because as a parent, what you want to do is, you always want to be like, well, yeah, it's rough, or yeah, you're sad, or yeah, you're mad, but things are going to be okay. And unless you want to lie to your kids, I cannot tell it. I can't tell everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing as a father, isn't it? Because as a father, you want to say to your children, everything's going to be fine. You want to be able to protect them and look after them. I think that there are obviously different levels of things. It's important to be able to let your children experience things that are maybe push your comfort zone, as much as, like, even with my kids going to the park by themselves, or the first time they wanted to go downtown and go shopping with their friends, like, that's a big push for my comfort zone, but I have to know I need to give them a little bit. But it's very different when I'm talking to my daughters about, for example, sexual assault or consent in a relationship, or being that I have had to have a different conversation with my daughters about being responsible when they're drinking, when they're older, than I would have to have with my son to an extent. There's a different spin on it. Obviously, I'll have the same conversation with my son about being aware, but it's a different worry. And so pushing your comfort zone is good as a father, but it's hard when the stakes are so high. So with the things that
because you know the worst that can happen, and not just from like TV and movies or whatever like that. We all grown up as young men, young teenagers. We've heard our, not necessarily friends, but we've heard our peers say things that's like, that is a rapist, or that guy's pretty much a sexual assaulter. And we already know that these guys will continue to exist, and we know that they're out there, and we know that some of them don't get caught, don't get accused, and they're pure swine. But we already know. I mean, so that's, the worst that can happen, and it's like you don't want to let that consume you as a father, because the worst that can happen, but you still have to let them live their lives. Otherwise, you'll get that sheltered kid who wows out the second they leave.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do myself, and trying to, be less cautious. I'm a cautious guy. I always have been, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to kind of not install that into my kids so much. I mean, like, yeah, they need to be cautious in some ways, but I mean, I'm trying to let them, live. And it's the same, we talk about this all the time about sheltering, their kind of innocence and keeping them, kind of wrapped up a bit. But, as time goes on and society changes and stuff, we have to know, when to just let go, and also know when to just be like, no, like, okay, this is what's going down. You need to listen. This is serious stuff now,
Yeah. I think that's yeah, sorry, go ahead, Jace.
I was just going to say, I often think back to times of how, like, my mum treated me and my sister and the things that we were able to do. And when I think that, Jess is going to be year 6 from September, and that was the age that I was walking me and my sister, who was 4 years younger than me, and I was walking us both to school from Seymour Road to Easton Primary School. So I had to, like, walk down a bit of steps, crossing part of the M32, the dual carriage road for the M32, and it's just weird because I couldn't imagine allowing them to do that walk. And is it that thing where, have I protected them too much? I don't think my mum threw me to the wolves by any stretch. I think that my mum done loads to protect me and keep me away from a lot of things, but she did also help us have our independence. She'd give us money so that after school, at the end of the day, we would then go to the we'd have to go to the fruit shop, buy our fruit, then come home. We'd stop off at Parishes and get some sweets, obviously, candy for the American. But yeah, we'd stop off and get our confectionery and then get home.
Sweets are.
But yeah, so it's kind of mad, 'cause I couldn't imagine. We spoke to the girls before about, eventually we will let them go to the shop. The shop is not even a 2-minute walk from where my house is. It's up and then turn right and the shop's there. But then there's certain things, like I'm going to the shop and I'm like, okay, Jada, can you open this door? And from she's not just pushing it and opening it, I'm like, right, Jada, you can't come to the shop by yourself then. If you can't even open this door. But at the same time, I think that she does have the maturity within her to walk to the shop, buy something she wants, check that she's got the right change and come back. I think she has that. But there's still a bit in me that I'm not ready to even take that gamble.
Listen, I'm exactly the same. Like, we keep talking to Zaire about, he's going to be, going to secondary school soon, and it's going to be the point where he will have to, walk Kida to school and then go to secondary school, potentially, if he goes to your school, Jace. But like, it's, in my head, school's just down the road. Like, literally, it's just down the road. And I'm confident that he could just walk to school and it'll be fine. You know what I mean? But you're still like, you're just still trying to hold on, because back then it's different times, isn't it? It was different times, and it's just weird when I think, like, if you think about, Jess and Jada, you have to think about the things that they could come up against. So they just have to walk down the road, cross an actual zebra crossing, and then they're on the right side, and then the shop's just up the road, and then they got to get in and buy the thing. And it just seems relatively easy. They have to pass their actual school to get there. You know what I mean? It just
But it's that thing where in your head it's that perilous journey, like outside a barren wasteland, gunshots going off everywhere, cars on fire, rabid dogs running down with one ear.
GTA. This is where, because we've spoken before about our different situations, and this is where it's quite interesting, because obviously Kinny and Jace, both of you are with the mothers of your kids. You're in a family unit, and you make these decisions together, where certain things are taken out of my hands by the mothers of my children. So there might be things that they're allowed to do that I wouldn't let them do, or vice versa. There might be things I let them do that their mum wouldn't let them do. So it kind of forces you to push that comfort zone a bit. So when there's something that I don't want my kids to have done, but they've done it with their mum, it's like, oh, well, you've done that now. You've walked to the shop. Your mum sent you to the shop. So that's pushed that boundary for me already. So it's a bit like, okay, you like Malachi walks to school by himself. He's in year 5, so he's 9 years old. It's not far at all. And well, he's going to be in year 6 soon. But he now cycles to him because his older sisters are now in secondary schools. Do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't have felt comfortable doing that, but he's done it and he's fine and he can manage. Do you see what I mean? So in a way, there's obviously it's a balance in it. But for me, certain boundaries have been pushed about my choice, where you guys have got your unit, which is really positive, but it means it's harder maybe to push those boundaries.
Just thinking again back to my childhood, is when you said about Mally riding his bike. When I was in year 6, me and Dan, so Dan was on our radio show way back, and yeah, like me and Dan would just get on our bikes or even just walk, and we would just go. We didn't have phones. We just went, and when we came back, we came back.
Street light.
Yeah, right.
Jace, I was gonna say
the same way you said, like, you know, it's the mother of your children that pushes the boundaries of the kids, and then you're like, oh, we already did that. And, I mean, I'm not with the mother of my children either, but it was with the mother of my daughter. But it was my grandmother and my mother when they would watch my daughter and then come back, and my daughter's like, for me, it wasn't necessarily the store because I got there's a lot of like playgrounds and stuff in my neighborhood that's very child friendly to walk. But literally, when I came home and saw my daughter cooking a grilled cheese on a flame stove, I was like, how did way? It was devastating for me. And she looked at me like, I do this every day after school. And I'm like, what? Who taught you how to play with fire? I keep telling you not to play with fire. She's like, no, I cook now. I'm old enough. And it was wild for me. I was like, oh no, like, because at that point, anytime she was with me, I'd either ordered food, let her microwave it, or I made it myself. I never let her use the stove, but apparently she's Iron Chef over here.
Well, now she can make you grilled cheeses whenever you like, right?
Oh, it's the best. It's the best.
I think
that I'm about to make grilled cheese. I'm like, throw me one on.
I think that the abuelas has a lot to answer for. The grandparents have a lot to answer for. Jason, what I was going to say to you, was that so is Nick's a bit more relaxed, and you're the cautious one?
Depends on the scenario. I'd say a lot of the time, with like more practical things, I'll open up the dialogue of, oh, one day you guys can go to the shop yourself. But then, yeah, at the same time, you know, when I spoke before about going to places like theme parks, and then you've got like the water park bit, and Nicola's happy to let the kids like run along, she'll just stand in one spot. And I can't handle that. I need to see where they're going. There's so many people. So yeah, so in that regards, I think, yeah, it just depends on the scenario, and I think we are getting much better because the kids are showing us the things that they can do, and yeah, it's just that thing where they're at a stage where they're gonna want to do more, and so we need to be ready to let them do more, because if you keep holding them back, they're gonna start, you know, it becomes extreme in the things that they're trying to do to be themselves and do whatever it is they want to do. What about you?
I'm learning that. I'm definitely the more cautious one, and Cheryl's just like, just let them do, like, you know, I'm definitely the more cautious one. Just an example, I'm teaching them how to ride at the moment, and you know, we go as a family, and we're going, you know, we got a hill bit, you know, my road, we got a hill bit down to my front door, and literally we've been teaching them for 2 days, and it comes to the second day, we know that they can kind of ride by themselves now, and I'm like, nah, you're not riding down that hill to the door, walk the bike down to the door, and the Cheryl's like, yep, right down to the door, and I'm like, okay, and then they're doing it, and I'm like, okay.
With physical things, I'm really relaxed with physical things. You want to climb that flipping 50-foot tree? Go ahead, get to the top. If you climbed up, you can climb back down. Like with physical stuff, I'm not bad. If you fall over, you get hurt, you get back up. But when it comes to them being out of my sight or doing something independent from me, that's where I struggle. Because I'm a worrier in that regard. But when it comes to actual doing, I'm like, yeah, if you drop off, you're going to get back up. Like, just don't run into a road and you'll be fine. Do you know what I mean?
Talking about the physical, that takes you back to when we done our Father's Day event with the Sympathy for the Dads with BCFM and up our street and that. And at Felix Road Adventure Playground, they've got that wall that is like a massive incline with like a rope on it. And it's a good, how many feet would you say that is high?
Oh, I would say at least 10.
Because
easily 10,
our kids
yeah.
were just up there, and I remember just sort of looking, just waiting for one of our kids to like slip, and like we've shared the videos on the Dadcast page where those dads have those reflexes and catch a kid. Like I don't know what I think I would do from how far I was, but I was very aware, like but they didn't. And then they had they had like the mattresses down and famous. It's so like basic, but the kids find it so fun. There's a shipping container, mattresses next to it, a ladder. Kids just climb up the ladder and just launching off of the shipping container just onto his mattresses. They're having a whale of a time. And the first time you see them do it, it's like, are you going to be alright? Be careful. Be careful. Yeah. And then, like, even our most cautious kids were jumping off of there like it was nothing.
But it's so important for them to explore like that safely. And realistically, what's the worst that's going to happen? I've taken Malachi to the hospital for a broken arm because he was trying to get his dressing gown down. Do you know what I mean? Like, things happen. Like, he's tough. He jumps off things. He falls off things. Things get broken. You get over it. You move on. But letting them explore and work out their own boundaries and overcome their own fears. Like watching my kids go down a death slide for the first time, a vertical slide. Maisie would not do it. She couldn't overcome that fear, but she really felt frustrated that her siblings did and she didn't. So the next time she wanted to make sure she did it. So I think those things are good. It's good for them to be able to explore somewhat safely, even if the worst that could happen is a little break or something. Like that'd be all right.
You say a little break, and it's all fun and games, isn't it, Kinny? So someone has a spiral fracture on their ankle.
yeah. Well, don't forget, Keita broke her arm as well.
Oh yeah.
So, you know what I mean. So,
touch wood, we've had no breaks.
Somebody, my mother threw it in perspective for me when I kind of expressed this kind of thing. My daughter's growing up. I think she had just turned 10, and I was like, Mom she's getting more independent, and she wants more alone time, and she got her little phone, and she got her friends, and who knows what she's talking about, who knows what they're getting into when they're hanging out. And my mom just simply, but she was like, think of all the things you did when you were 10. And I was like, oh yeah, video games, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. She was like, no, think of all the things that I never found out about. And I was like, oh yeah, I set fires and I put out firecrackers. We set up a tree swing one time, like 40 feet into the tree. It was totally dangerous. We didn't know anything about building. We were riding bikes recklessly, running from dogs. Like I just remember all types of like, oh, nothing happened to me. It's just being a kid experiences. And I was like, oh right, she has to do that, otherwise she's not a person. So it kind of.
Do you know, we need that on a t-shirt. Like, our kids need to do this, otherwise they're not a person.
Not a person.
Fame Black. Like, just on there, Fame Black. We've lost him. The connection's gone.
I don't want my daughter to be. I don't want my daughter to be 21 going like, oh no, I've never done that. I've never. Oh, my parents didn't let me do that. Oh, I have no idea what that's like. I've never been there. My parents didn't let me do that. And people are going, what? You got to try it right now. I don't want my daughter. I want her to be like, no, I know what that's like. No, thank you. I don't want. Whatever. I want her to have the option of life.
Okay, boys, we've been at this for a little while now. Now, a lot of people will be aware that we had some homework. And that was to write some poetry, and so we've got some bits down. I think the order is possibly Joe, Kinny, me.
Yeah, Malachi's in here as well. So should we let Mali go first?
Okay.
Or should we do
you know we will open up with Mali. For those that are on Facebook, you may recognize his face because he was in Vogue recently at the Black Lives Matter protest. So muggle him a muggle. Mali. You ready with your poem?
Yep, I got it right here.
Okay, go for it, sir.
I don't know your name. I like football, it is fun. Up and down the field, aiming late will make me drowsy. The next day I feel quite loud. Drawing pictures.
Really sorry, Mali. Can't hear you. We're gonna have to see your face. Speak nice and loud. Use that big voice.
Yeah. What?
Remember, you got loads of older sisters, so I know you got a bigger voice than that.
Right, I'm going to put the headphones on for him, and that might be a bit more clear. There you go. Pick up.
Give us a testing mic check. 1 2 1 2.
Check.
Mic check. Okay, go for it.
Okay. I like football. It is fun. Up and down the field I run. Gaming late will make you drowsy. Drawing pictures. I watch the NAF finding some fun. It's quite creepy because they're all typing. That's all I got.
Okay. Football man.
Joe.
Okay, Joe, you ready?
Mine's a little bit deep, mine, guys.
All right, make sure your microphone is to your mouth.
Yeah, you sound a bit quiet, boss. Give me your big voice, your outdoor voice.
Hear me? Is that all right?
We can hear
outdoor
you.
Voice. Is this good? Yeah. Okay.
Bass in your voice.
Do you know what? This is probably the first time I've ever really said any of my poetry out to people, like maybe in front of one or two people before. So just gonna have to get on with it before I get nervous. Okay.
Isn't it funny how we do this every week and we talk and we spill our guts, but suddenly we're having to read out poetry, and again I feel a bit like this is a bit nerve-wracking.
Right?
So I'm here with you.
This is a poem that I've revised a little bit, so it's not brand new, but I've changed it, and it is about what's been happening in the world over the last forever, but what's been very highlighted in the last few weeks recently with George Floyd and everything that's going on there. Can you feel the pain of a people persecuted, murdered with hate, pure evil? You can't understand what some races have been through. Hopefully you can't. Hopefully it's never been you. Hopefully that pain is never in you, and you will never feel what the police is into. But believe me that I see it, so I say it. There's no limit to the evil of the system that we live in. But we're living, always giving, never giving. So don't jest with the knowledge and the wisdom on the rhythm. I just want to pass it on, make you driven for a change. You maybe think my talk is long, but if you do, then you're deranged. So open up your eyes, because life out there is real, fam. Police kill the innocent. Boy, what's the deal, fam? Tell me on the real, fam. Can you begin to realize? Open up your heart and see the world through someone else's eyes.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that was fire. That was pure fire, man. That was pure fire. Well done, Dubs, man. That was deep still.
You know how I do, man.
That was deep.
Can't do nothing light-hearted for me, but
I'm about to join you on the deepness.
Okay,
so
you're up next, yeah?
Yeah, my poem's called 925. Okay, you'll get the gist of what it's about when you go through it. So 925. A week till you're here, and I can hardly wait. The plan we had for your arrival was surely fate. All the books, shows, and antenatal, all this knowledge was so instrumental to showing me how to keep calm and steady. But hold on a minute, am I really ready? No time to think, the pain is here. The look on her face, was it fear? Or maybe happiness because our first child will be born. I'm feeling emotional, my mind is torn. Between crying, laughing, my mind is gone. The pain is getting stronger, the race is truly on. I grabbed the bag and off we go. What's gonna happen next? We really didn't know. 5 centimeters dilated, she is halfway. You can do this, I love you, is what I had to say. It's time to push, now I have to stay strong. But man, I'm so scared. What if something goes wrong? She is a soldier, my queen, my partner in crime. I feel so blessed that this woman is mine. Here comes the baby with lots of hair. It's a boy, my son. All I could do was stare at this beautiful boy, my amazing queen. This is what I wished for, this very scene. I can finally cry. I feel so alive because I became a father at 925.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yes, that's fire, bro. Yes.
I like getting a little bit emotional just reading that. I'm not gonna lie.
That's big. That's big.
And I think you need to hold that and read it out again, like in a few years' time. Anniversary poem ready. Dadiversary poem ready. So yeah, mine. I didn't really give it a title, but I think I'll title it 3 words. When I think about my life, 3 words jump out. They are scream, cry, and also shout. These words work both ways if it's a good or bad scene, so I thought I'd write this short poem to share what I mean. The first word is scream. It's a sound we all hear when we feel pain, disdain, or if we feel fear. As a monster, I try to catch my kids, and they erupt as soon as I'm near. In my house, the screams sometimes represent cheer. Crying is normal, and we all do that, right? We all fall out or argue at some point, as all families fight. But we mend and make friends, which helps us keep tight. And we love tears of laughter from memories we hold that shine bright. Now, shouting is something that most parents do when children are naughty or say something rude. But my kids just shout as they're just a noisy pair times 2. I guess volume's an issue for the Team Clarko crew. I love living in this madhouse full of laughter and so many moments that are random. And it's thanks to these nutters that we were able to create Dadcast with the Mandem. So yeah. That was mine.
That's it. Yeah, I like
that's big, man. Fame, what did you think?
Oh man, those were awesome, man. Those are some deep ass poems, man. That was really good.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot now, Fame, because you're a wrestling fan. It's all about titles. Who gets the Dadcast with the Man Dem Poetry Slam Championship?
Oh, that's a no brainer. That's going to Kenny.
Okay. Congratulations, Kinny.
Well done, Kenny.
I'll be coming for that title. Kinny Chinangwa, I'm coming for you, homie.
Coming for that title.
You want to jump in, Fame?
The Man Dem. Yeah, man. I got some poetry in the way. I'll get something together.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. This seems like a good time to wrap up the show. Thank you so much, Fame, for joining us all the way from Philly. We really appreciate it, and it's been good to kind of get an insight from you. BCFM is a local community station, but actually there are loads of people listening around the world, and yeah, it's just good to get these different voices to know kind of what makes up our human race, and it's good to see that there's connections all over the world. So yeah, thank you for coming. Boys, anything going on over the next week?
Father's Day. It's Father's Day.
Right. Yeah.
That's Sunday, isn't it?
So here's the thing: the time that this is on, this is on BCFM, Father's Day would have been yesterday.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So no.
So
no.
I had a really good Father's Day. My kids got me a diamond encrusted watch. Are you two listening? I think they're asleep, you know. That's mad. They didn't even say a word.
Mine pre-ordered the PS5.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting. Yeah.
Yeah, my two's sending me to WrestleMania next year. I can see Fame. So I can see Fame again.
Thank you to everybody that has been following the journey, have been supporting Dadcast with the Madam. As life starts to, life's not going to return to normal. I feel like a lot of changes come, and it's good. And I think there's been a lot of reflection. But as we are able to get involved in more projects, and as it becomes safer to do so, you know, Dadcast with Mandem are going to be back in the community. We are going to be doing a bit more work. You know, we have these conversations, but we are guys that we enjoy talking, but we like doing more. So yeah, thanks to anybody that has been connected. You can get us on all the socials at Dadcast WTMD. We're on Facebook if you just search for Dadcast with the Mandem. These videos are on YouTube, so if you've tuned in partway and you missed it, don't worry, it will be up on YouTube on Tuesday, and podcast also on Tuesday if you have missed a show. Or you can go back on BCFM and listen to any of our previous shows on the BCFM website. Boys, there is nothing more to say except for Fatherhood
doesn't come with a manual.
See you guys there. Bye.